Someone woke up this morning and the first thing that moved through them was you. Not a thought they chose, not a deliberate act of remembering, something involuntary, something that arrived before they were fully conscious, before the day had any shape yet, in that soft, unguarded space between sleep and waking, where people do not have the defenses they maintain during daylight hours. You were there, and the feeling that came with you was not comfortable. Stay with me, because what I am picking up in your energy right now carries the specific, unmistakable weight of someone else's heartbreak moving through the field toward you. Not vaguely, not as a general impression of being thought about or missed in the casual sense that most people mean when they use that word. I am talking about the real thing. The aching, persistent, quietly devastating version of missing someone that does not respond to distraction or time or the reasonable advice of people who care about you and keep telling you that you will be fine. This person is not fine. And today, specifically, the missing has reached a pitch that they are struggling to contain. Let me tell you what I feel when I tune into this person's energy, because the texture of what they are carrying deserves to be delivered in its full complexity rather than reduced to a simple summary. The first thing I feel is heaviness, a physical quality of it, not just emotional. The kind of heaviness that sits in the chest and makes ordinary tasks feel like they require more effort than they actually do. The kind that makes a person move through their day slightly slower than usual, slightly more interior than usual, slightly more aware of an absence that on other days they can push to the periphery of their consciousness, but that today refuses to be peripheral. Today it is central. You are central. The second thing I feel is a very specific quality of regret. And I want to be precise about this because not all regret is the same, and the kind this person is carrying has a particular shape. It is not the regret of someone who did something dramatically wrong and is living with the consequence of an obvious mistake. It is more subtle than that, more painful in some ways because it is harder to name. It is the regret of someone who had something real within reach and did not fully close their hand around it, who let moments pass that deserved to be seized, who operated from a version of themselves that was more cautious, more defended, more reluctant to be fully seen than the situation actually required. They know what they did not do, and today that knowledge is sitting on them like a stone. I want to go somewhere specific now because I feel it strongly and I do not want to move past it without naming it properly. This person has been trying in the quiet, private, invisible way that people try when they are not ready to be public about what they are going through. They have been trying to arrive at a place of acceptance, of forward movement, of the functional peace that is supposed to come when enough time passes and enough distance accumulates between you and the thing that broke something in you. It has not come, and the reason it has not come is not a failure of will or a weakness of character or any inadequacy in their capacity to heal. The reason is simpler and more honest than any of those explanations. The reason is that what they felt for you was real, is real in the present tense, not the past, and real things do not dissolve on schedule. They do not respond to the timeline that the rational mind draws up and presents to the heart as a reasonable plan. The heart does not negotiate with reasonable plans. It simply continues to feel what it feels until it does not anymore. And this heart is not done. Let me bring the cards into this because I feel their energy present in the reading today, and I want to honor what they are showing. What I am seeing in the spread for this person is the combination of the moon and the Six of Cups placed in direct relationship to each other. And for those of you who follow tarot, you already feel where this is going. For those of you who do not, let me translate. The moon speaks to what lives beneath the surface, to the emotional reality that exists underneath the composed presentation someone makes to the world, to the dreams, the fears, the unprocessed feelings that move through a person in the night when the daylight performance is no longer required of them. The moon is where the truth lives, when the truth is too large or too vulnerable to live anywhere else. And the Six of Cups is memory, nostalgia in its deepest form, the return to something that was simpler, warmer, more innocent than what exists now. The reaching backward toward a connection, a feeling, a version of life that contained something precious that is no longer present in the same way. Together, these two cards are painting a portrait of someone who is living in their memories of you more than they are living in their present, who returns to specific moments, specific conversations, specific looks or laughs or silences that existed between you, and who finds those memories more alive, more nourishing, more real than much of what their daily life currently offers them. You have become their Six of Cups, the thing they return to when the present is not enough. Does something in you already know this? Have you felt this person's energy recently in that inexplicable way that certain people's thoughts create a kind of atmospheric pressure you can sense without being able to fully explain? Have you thought of them unexpectedly in moments with no obvious trigger and wondered why they appeared so clearly and so suddenly in your awareness? That is not coincidence. That is the energetic reality of someone whose focus on you is intense enough to travel, to cross whatever physical or circumstantial distance exists between you and arrive in your field as a feeling you cannot quite name, but cannot quite dismiss either. Let me know in the comments if you have been feeling this, if someone has been appearing in your thoughts recently with a persistence that surprised you. Because I think for many of you, this reading is confirming something your own intuition has been quietly telling you for a while. I want to speak now to why today specifically, because the reading has a specific quality of immediacy that goes beyond the general statement of someone missing you. Today carries a particular weight in this person's experience, and I want to explain what I feel is creating that. Something happened, not necessarily today, but recently, something that reminded them of you in a way that bypassed their usual coping mechanisms. A song, a place, a conversation with someone that went in a direction that made you suddenly vividly present in their mind when they had almost managed to keep you at a manageable distance. The almost is the important word. Almost manageable, almost at a distance, almost in the territory of something they were learning to live alongside rather than something that continued to actively ache. And then this thing, this song or place or conversation, or simply a quality of light on a specific kind of afternoon that they will forever associate with you, collapsed the almost entirely. And today they are back at the beginning of it. Not because they have made no progress, but because grief and missing someone you loved is a form of grief does not move in a straight line. It moves in the spiral pattern that catches you off guard. That brings you back to an intensity you thought you had moved through, briefly, before the spiral continues forward again. Today is one of those backwards moments on the spiral for them. And you are feeling it because their energy is pointed directly at you. Let me go into what this person is specifically missing, because the general word missing does not do justice to the particularity of what they are carrying today, and particularity is where the real feeling lives. They miss the way they felt around you, not just you as an external presence, but the specific version of themselves that existed in your company. The version that was more relaxed, more open, more willing to be seen than they typically allow themselves to be. You created a space for them. Whether you were fully conscious of doing it or not, your presence, your specific quality of attention and warmth and genuine engagement made something possible in them that does not exist in the same way anywhere else in their life. And they have not found it again. They have looked perhaps not as actively or as openly as someone who has fully admitted to themselves what they are looking for, but in the way that people look when they are trying to replicate a feeling without being willing to name the specific source of it, moving through their world with a subtle and persistent awareness that something is absent, something that makes other connections feel slightly insufficient by comparison without them being able to articulate exactly why. What is absent is you. What is absent is the feeling of being met by someone who actually sees them, who responds to who they actually are rather than who they have presented themselves as being, who does not require the performance that most of their other relationships require, who offered them something genuine and received their genuineness in return. That is what they are missing today, not the idea of you, the real thing. I want to speak to the heartbreak piece now because the word is in the title of this reading and it deserves its full examination. Heartbreak has a quality that most people do not fully discuss. There is the acute phase, the immediate, sharp, breathtaking phase that everyone recognizes and that has its own brutal completeness. But there is another phase that follows it, and that in many ways is harder because it is less dramatically obvious and therefore less socially acknowledged. It is the phase of living with the shape of the absence, where the acute pain has softened enough that daily functioning has resumed, where from the outside everything appears to be moving forward appropriately, but where internally there is a constant low frequency awareness of a space that was once filled and is no longer, a shape in the air beside you where something warm used to be, a silence in conversations where a particular voice used to live, a gap in the texture of ordinary days that most people around you cannot see because it is not visible from the outside. This person is in that phase. The acute phase has passed. What they are living in now is the long, quiet, considerably less dramatic but no less real phase of carrying the shape of your absence everywhere they go. And today, for the reasons I described, that shape is more present than usual, more visible, more impossible to simply walk past without stopping and feeling the full weight of it. They are stopped today, Virgo. Stopped by the weight of missing you. There is something else I feel in this energy that I want to name because I think it is important for you to hear. this person has not spoken about this, not fully, not in the way that would actually honor the scale of what they are carrying. They have perhaps made passing references, perhaps allowed a fragment of it to surface in a conversation with someone close to them before pulling it back below the surface and redirecting the conversation. Perhaps written something they never sent. Perhaps picked up their phone with a specific intention that they then talked themselves out of before anything was actually transmitted. They are containing this largely alone because the full expression of it would require an admission they are not yet ready to make publicly, an admission about the depth of what they felt and continue to feel, about the significance of what this was and continues to be in their interior world, even while their exterior life proceeds normally and presents no evidence of the storm underneath. That containment is exhausting. And today, the exhaustion is showing in the energy, the effort of keeping something this large in a space this small is costing them more today than it usually does. I want to pause here and speak directly to the Virgo heart for a moment, because this reading is not only about what this other person is feeling, it is also about you and what this information means for where you are and what you are carrying. You have your own feelings about this person. Whatever they are, whatever form they take, whatever complicated mixture of tenderness and hurt and unanswered questions and genuine care they contain, they are valid. All of them, even the contradictory ones, even the ones that seem to pull in opposite directions simultaneously, even the ones you have not yet found the words for. This reading is not asking you to do anything with that information. It is not prescribing a response or suggesting an action or implying that the correct next step is obvious. What it is doing is giving you a fuller picture, returning to you the knowledge that what existed between you and this person was not something that lived only in you, that the weight of it was shared even if the sharing happened privately on both sides, that the reality of the connection was confirmed by both of your experiences of its absence. What you do with that fuller picture is entirely and completely yours to decide, from a place of full information rather than the partial picture that absence and silence tend to create. Let me bring through what the cards are showing about where this is moving, because a reading that only describes the current state without pointing toward the direction of movement is incomplete. What I see in the energy ahead is a threshold moment, not far from where things currently stand, a point at which this person's containment reaches its natural limit, where the effort of keeping everything internal becomes greater than the fear of allowing something external, where the question of whether to reach out, to say something, to make known in some form what has been living privately for all of this time stops being answerable with continued silence. The silence has a limit, and I feel that limit approaching. What happens when it arrives depends on factors I cannot fully see from this position, on the specific courage this person can access in that moment, on the circumstances that create the opening, on whether the universe provides the right combination of timing and situation to make the thing feel possible that has felt impossible until now. But the movement toward that threshold is real. And it is happening now, in this season, in these days where the missing has reached the specific pitch that I described at the opening of this reading. Something is building toward expression. For those of you who are navigating your own feelings about whether you want this person in your life, I want to offer something grounding rather than directive. Your feelings, whatever they are, do not need to be resolved before that threshold moment arrives. You do not need to have decided anything. You do not need to have a clear and organized answer prepared for a question that has not yet been asked. You are allowed to receive whatever comes with openness, rather than a predetermined response. You are allowed to let the moment be what it actually is, rather than what you anticipated it might be based on previous versions of the dynamic between you. People change in the space of genuine loss. The person who may be reaching toward you is not necessarily identical to the person who created the distance that caused this hurt in the first place. Absence does something to people. Missing someone genuinely, the way this person has been missing you, has a refining quality. It clarifies what matters. It strips away the defensive postures and the careful self protections that got in the way of real connection when real connection was available. Whether that refinement has gone deep enough to create something genuinely different is something only you will be able to assess when you are in the actual presence of it. Your discernment is excellent, Virgo. Trust it to do its job when the moment requires it. I want to close this reading by speaking to something I feel in your energy that is separate from this person and separate from this specific situation. Something about where you are in yourself right now that is worth naming before we part. You are in a season of quiet power, not the loud, performative kind, the kind that comes from having been through something real and having remained yourself on the other side of it, the kind that does not need to announce itself because it is visible without announcement, the kind that changes the quality of the air around you in ways that people feel before they understand them. This is why this person's missing of you carries the intensity it does. It is not only the memory of who you were that is calling to them, it is the sense, even from a distance, even through whatever silence or separation has existed between you, of who you are becoming. The gravitational pull of someone who has done real internal work and whose energy reflects that work in ways that cannot be faked or imitated. You are magnetic right now, Virgo. Not because you are trying to be, because you have been faithful to yourself through a season that asked you repeatedly to be otherwise. And that faithfulness is visible to this person, to everyone who has ever truly encountered you. And most importantly, on the days when you can feel it clearly, to you. Take care of your heart today. It is holding more than it shows, and it deserves to be tended to with the same care and precision you tend to everything else in your life. Leave me something in the comments if this reading found you somewhere real. One word, one sentence, whatever is true for you right now, because your truth shared here becomes part of something larger than either of us. Until next time, Virgo, someone woke up this morning and you were the first thing they felt. Let that land, and then decide from your most grounded and self-honoring place what you want to do with the knowing of it. The answer is already inside you. It always has been.